Democrats are stepping up their midterm messaging against President Trump and his alleged self-dealing. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer unveiled legislation Thursday creating a new anti-corruption bureau to address what he says is unprecedented self-enrichment by President Trump. Schumer said the agency will wield sweeping investigative, subpoena, and enforcement powers and could be applied retroactively.
Trump has come up with pernicious but very clever new ways to enrich himself at the taxpayer's expense. And so we need new tools because this is a new kind of corruption, a pervasive kind of corruption. And that's what our legislation does. It does two things. It first provides a way that the public or the government, whoever was ripped off, can get their money back from Trump, his family, his friends. And second, it provides a tough, strong, new government-wide anti-corruption agency with new tools that can find this corruption and go after it.
Joining me now is our friend, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Robert Garcia of California. So welcome back, Congressman. Good to see you. If Democrats win back the House, does Congress plan to hold Trump, his family, his associates accountable for alleged acts of corruption? What issue or transaction might be first for scrutiny, if so?
I mean, that's going to be job number one. Certainly, you have the Oversight Committee in the House. I mean, Trump family corruption is out of control. The president himself is over $2 billion richer. His family, of course, now are infinitely more wealthy. The sons are cutting deals with the Pentagon on boards that they sit on. They're cutting real estate deals across the world. The Kushners are trying to buy private islands. Jared Kushner was given $2 billion in the last White House for an investment fund that has still not really made any return on that investment. And on and on and on, the grift continues. There's a weaponization fund that Donald Trump wants to use for his buddies and his insurrectionists. They continue to sell pardons, access to the White House. And so the idea for us is that we're going to focus on that Trump family corruption. And that corruption extends not just to what he is doing, but to what's happening through his DOJ, whether it's the Epstein files, whether it's corruption going on at DHS. But corruption is what the Oversight Committee will be focused on, and Trump family corruption is at the top of that list.
I'm going to get to the Epstein files in just a moment, but President Trump threatened to temporarily withdraw Todd Blanche's nomination for Attorney General until after Republican holdout Senators Thom Tillis and John Cornyn are out of office next year. But today, he re-upped his determination to push the anti-weaponization fund, which includes money potentially for January 6th rioters and immunity from IRS audits for him and his family. What is your reaction to the president's determination on this front when they said the fund was dead?
Well, two things. One, the president should wait and pull the nomination because we plan on winning the Senate. We're going to get the majority in the Senate, and then Todd Blanche will never become Attorney General. And as it relates to the weaponization fund, I mean, this is insane. The idea that the president wants a fund that he controls so he can give money to insurrectionists. He wants a fund that he can give money out to traitors who attacked the country, who attacked our capital, who caused harm, what they did to police officers. And of course, who knows who else he wants to give this money to? Essentially a trust fund for Donald Trump and all of his insurrectionist pals and buddies. That is not going to be allowed in the Congress and in the country and in the courts. And so the president's making it clear that he really was not being honest when he said that the fund would go away. Todd Blanche was not being honest when he said there would no longer be a fund. And so I'm glad that you're seeing Senators Cornyn and Senators Tillis actually stand up for the Constitution and stand against this fund. I wish that John Thune and that Mike Johnson had the same spine and actually stand up to Donald Trump and say, no way are we going to allow this fund or the ongoing corruption.
The Justice Department this week complied with the federal court order and handed over unredacted Epstein files to a federal judge for private review. The DOJ says most redactions in these files protect victims and law enforcement personnel, but it withheld the identity of two people who allegedly emailed Epstein, one saying they, quote, love the torture video. The judge will decide whether these redactions are legally justified. But what more can you tell us about these files?
Look, I think broadly speaking, what's really important here is there is some movement that's been happening with some of these lawsuits, Katie Fang, other efforts that have been out there, where you're starting to see some of these files, and judges actually say, look, there has to actually be a full release from the DOJ. Because at this very moment, about half of the total Epstein files have not been released to the Congress or the public. We've only seen half of the evidence. And we understand that there's still a significant amount of information, files, evidence that the DOJ still has in their possession, but they're not turning it over. And why is that? What are they actually hiding? What does Donald Trump not want us to see? What does Todd Blanche not want us to get access to? And so if the courts are able to extract this from the DOJ, that is a good step. But the reality is that we don't know what the DOJ is actually going to give the courts. We cannot trust this Department of Justice. The survivors have been clear. They want the full files released with protecting, of course, their names and their identities. And we support that effort. We're not going to stop until all of the files are released. And so there's efforts that are happening in the courts. There's efforts that are happening in the Congress. And we continue to push every single day and won't stop until all those files are released.
I want to quickly touch on what you and Senator Richard Blumenthal are demanding, which is answers from the federal law enforcement training centers over the vetting and training of ICE officers. This after the killing of Johan Guerrero in Maine last month. While ICE won't identify the officer who killed him, his close relatives identified him to news outlets and told them he has a history of domestic violence and mental illness. You argue the shooting was the result of the administration lowering hiring and training standards for officers. So what accountability are you seeking from DHS officials?
Well, we know that's the case. I mean, we know we're hearing from across the country. We see it in the actions of the administration. They have made the requirements to join the agency dramatically different. Less time, less training. And that is not the way that law enforcement should be operating in this country, or the type of training they should be getting. And I talked to police officers and other folks on the ground who are appalled by what ICE is doing. I mean, the fact in this one case that they first shot someone, killed someone that wasn't even the person they were initially looking for. Of course, we know this is just shameful what's happening. It's not just this one case. We've seen action after action by ICE where they have gone after United States citizens, people that are here that are working with a work permit, folks that are being arrested without their due process. And a large part of this is the training. This is an agency that right now is out of control because Donald Trump wants it this way. He wants an agency that he can control, that he can direct. We should be very clear, and we should be and understand that Donald Trump also will likely want to use ICE when it comes to the ballot box come this November. He's going to send people to polling places, to precincts. These are questions that need to be answered. And we need to understand the type of training that right now ICE is giving to these officers.
Congressman Robert Garcia, it's always good to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us.